Well, good afternoon also from my side. What can I do here after the Shell B and Shell E's stories and after a radio show that throws you off the chair here? I can only come with my German humor, and I'm afraid you're all going to leave the room pretty soon as I tell my first joke. Because when I tell jokes, I'm the only one laughing. So I'm not going to do that to you. Instead, I'm trying to tell you a little bit about where this model-based systems engineering might be going in the next few years, and you define for yourself what few is, because we're all talking digital enterprises, and I'll try to relate the two of them in a little bit. But first, I'll show you a little illustration photo which is taken about 2.5 months ago, which came to my mind when I was approached to talk in a lightning show. This thing here is a rocket on its way up, roughly about 2 kilometers altitude, and it's hit by a lightning stroke. And what do you see there? The lightning hits the rocket at the tip, and someplace later, after the plasma has become not a plasma anymore, it leaves the rocket. So when I saw that photo, and I was a space guy for all my life, I was shocked. I expected the next photo to show a big explosion, or at least to see a rocket which goes into, in this case, the Kazakh steppe. Well, believe it or not, nothing happened. This rocket went up, great lightning show. It delivered 2 satellites into low Earth orbits and worked perfectly. So that's my contribution to lightning show. Now, let's go into the subject matter itself, and I'll throw this thing at you so you know where I come from, namely model-based engineering, model-based systems engineering, and project lifecycle management. They are all elements of the digital transformation and, what I say, essential building blocks for digital enterprises. That's really the message I'm trying to get across to you. So let's take a step. Most of you have seen this chart. It's a chart which shows how we get from Charlie Chaplin into modern times. It is the times where we have massive transformations, digital transformations towards cyber-physical systems. All right. In other words, and I'm an optimist, I've always been an optimist all my life, it is a digital environment that's changing and giving us here infinite opportunities. And that's it. There's lots of people who fear the digital environment. For me, it gives us great opportunities to do things much simpler, much faster, and much better in the long run. What I want to do is report to you from a panel which we had during the 4th workshop in JPL in Pasadena, just in January this year, where we asked the question, transitioning MBSE towards a digital enterprise, how could this possibly work? You see the people who've participated in this one, and incidentally, the instigator and responsible person is here in this room, Chi Lin. Chi? Job. Anyway, we were debating a number of questions, and I will not go through all of those in view of the time that I have. How fast could MBSE become broadly operational across the entire system engineering community? Big question, and you'll see the answer a bit later. What forms of digital engineering integration or seamless interaction will we see in the near future? And which role will MBSE play? Note the word seamless. I repeat it so many times you will be sick and tired of hearing it at the end of this presentation. Or should MBSE be an integral part of the enterprise MBE, because model-based engineering is much, much wider than our model-based systems engineering? or will they evolve separately, etc. I will not go through all of those. Virtual engineering, AI, machine learning, how are we going to bring them into MBSE? Big question, and lots of other big questions. Phasing over, how can MBSE and PLM start being lined up together? Another big question, an essential question for the digital enterprise. How can either or both of them help shaping this digital enterprise? How will cybersecurity be infused? And finally, at what pace can all of that happen? You see a big, broad set of questions that we threw into this panel. But before I come to the conclusions of the panel, let me jump in a few other things: model-based developments, digital twins, virtualization, because these are essential elements of all of that, what's happening towards the digital enterprise. This is one of my favorite charts by Bryn Watson, VP from Lockheed Martin. She puts it in one chart, namely, we need to create a digital enterprise, a digital tapestry. The digital tapestry is moving all of those disciplines which you see on this chart in a relationship, so they complement each other, and together they give you the digital set of tools and methods that you need to do engineering in the future. It is this tapestry of things fitting together as seamlessly as they possibly can. One of my friends from Airbus shows it, and now in a dimension more, by showing MBSE in the middle of this red environment there, showing the analytical models, the verification models, the architectural models having been interlinked with each other, together with the more specific discipline models. And this is a connection and interface issue all across many things. And if you take one step further, then these in turn need to relate to many other functions in digital enterprise, be that marketing, be that research, be that controlling and other things. Only once you fit all these elements together are you arriving at a digital enterprise. It's a huge job. Two quick inserts. Digital twins and virtualizations, to me, two linchpins towards the future and enablers of making all of this happen that I have started to describe. There's a lot of questions always about what's the difference between a digital twin and models. Well, first of all, both of them are virtual representations of reality or approximations of reality. They are not reality, and how close we are to reality with our models is a matter of development and knowledge of the data behind there. And if I look back at the CAE developments, we're now in the structural representation, we're 99% even for space systems, whereas in other models we're barely 70 or 75% in real representation. So they're approximations of reality. What are then the differences? Models mostly represent elements of the system. We don't have complete systems engineering models. We have elements of models, and they are hopefully interlinkable through some form or another. A digital twin should eventually, and I use particularly these words, should eventually represent a complete system or a product, like an aircraft, like a power station, a heart, etc., etc. And this, in the end, is the result of intense modeling, because it is the results of the modeling, the data you've created, the products you've created, that you're then representing in a digital twin. Both precede reality and most often evolve with it. It's not a big bang, here it is, and then you go. It is something which evolves as systems go through their life cycle. the easiest to understand and imaginable product is coming out of the building information model. A facility, which you see there to your left, which built up by elements, the concrete, the walls, the floors, the facilities inside there, the power lines, the communication lines, the thermal lines, etc., the air codes, etc., built up. And the BIM people are fairly far out in creating the digital models of such facilities. Okay, what is a digital twin? I say the digital twin is at the heart of what we call Industry 4.0. It's not just a representation of the development model, it goes much farther. Because if you go to phase 2 of the digital twin, it is the reference for the manufacturing process. It is the baseline design for the production process, etc. And it goes on, if we have it in the right way, into the operational and servicing phases. That's the real role of the digital twin, which somebody said is at the heart of Industry 4.0. So what's the advantage of digital twin? Firstly, you thoroughly analyze the system before implementation. You can do the trade-offs end to end in many ways. Generate a comprehensive data planning, a planning baseline. You have authoritative truths or source of truth, and the customer in the end receives, instead of documents like ever, digital models, which are terabytes and petabytes, but okay, easier accessible, easier workable. The quality, the cost, and schedule gains could be significant if you do it right. And my only caveat I need to throw in there, for complex systems, it's not for tomorrow. It will take a bit of time to get there. Okay. Visualization and virtualization, two of the same kind but different things, I keep on saying. We have the chance of representing visually things which take lots of work to describe, and IKEA on the left-hand side from you, the right-hand side from you shows you something. My point is a different one. Virtualization, visualization, virtualization are advancing a very broad front, come into our daily lives. Computer games, movies, or many other representations of modern ways of showing products and working on products. They are real, they're here. Powered by very important, very strong IT, they're there. But if we look one step further, here's a few more examples. I've been walking on Mars with a big goggle up there, trying to figure out exactly where should Curiosity go next to drill a hole. It is a virtual representation of the Mars surface which you can experience yourself. My point is a different one. The MBSE diagrams that we have today result out of a software culture, not out of an engineering culture. They don't represent our engineering frame of mind. That's my personal point of view, because I've gone through engineering representation from the drawing board into our most modern ways. What I think is going to happen, and this is part of Industry 4.0, and it's also part of this development towards a digital enterprise, we're going to have representations of that kind in the way we do engineering in the future. So, the conclusions from our panel were 4 conclusions. Let me forego the first one, just to say that it will take some time before we're really in full MBSE, but MBSE and MBE are moving forward together in a somewhat seamless interaction eventually. Lots of hurdles. We have lots of things to overcome, from ontologies to visualizations to cyber resilience to data structures, etc., etc. MBSE and PLM together need to be aligned. That's a point which I think is very, very important, because at the moment, if you look at the tools, if you look at the data structures, if you look at the repositories, Some of them are moving together, but we are not there yet, but it's going to come. And if they do, they are a strong backbone of a digital enterprise. That we have huge challenges in moving towards this digital enterprise, I think is clear to everybody, and I don't need to emphasize it too much. Now, we asked the question to schedule estimates. When do you think your organization is going to be there? First question, when MBSE has become commonplace for some 2/3 of the community, the answer was roughly about 6 years, with a spread of 5 to 10 years. Second question, when are MBSE and MBE have they matured towards seamless interaction? Similar time frame, a little bit more skepticism there. Thirdly, MBSE has become, when do you think MBSE has become the standard end-to-end SE practice from conceptual design to manufacturing services? Well, the skepticism grows further, 10 years with a spread between 5 and 15 years. And finally, PLM and MBSE have been aligned to allow seamless interaction, 9 years. So, the spread comes because there is different companies involved, different priorities and different organizations on any of those things. But I think personally, a lot of this is still fairly optimistic. So let me come to my final conclusions. 3 take-home points. Firstly, models, simulation, virtualization, digital twins will slowly grow together. They will drive all of engineering. When we couple them with artificial intelligence, big data, supercomputing, there's lots of fascinating opportunities to come. Secondly, we have a lag and some problems with the standards, ontologies. They are simply not yet there to enable lots of what we want to do. The seamlessness, the non-seamlessness is what really bothers at least me and many of my colleagues, because it prevents us from bringing things together. It is too complex to bring them together. And note there, our software systems understanding and IT capabilities are really the bottleneck in practically all that I have described until now. And we need to realize that, and there's a lot of implications from that. So, the digital enterprise needs to integrate many hard and soft disciplines. And I've not talked about soft disciplines here much, but if we get MBE, MBSE and PLM together, they will be really the backbone for digital enterprises. Thank you very much.